Welcome to Local Leverage, your competitive edge in business. As always, today's show is brought to you by Property Radar, the hyperlocal lead generation platform for small local businesses. Today's guest is a San Diego-based real estate investor, developer, and community leader with over 15 years of experience in the industry. He's the founder of We Revive, a mission-driven investment firm specializing in fix and flips, and he's the publisher of The Real Report, a weekly market digest delivering clear, actionable housing insights. Today, we're breaking down mission-driven investing, how to navigate California's evolving housing landscape, and the systems behind scaling profitable, community-focused developments. It's my pleasure to introduce Brian Daly. Brian, welcome to Local Leverage.
Well, hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
Likewise, glad to have you on the show. Man, I want to tap into a few things. It feels like you've got yourself into multiple endeavors, and so I want to tap into everything from your experiences with Revive and what you're doing in the San Diego community. Talk about some leadership and some other experiences, but maybe let's go back all the way. I mean, you kind of started and were thrust into real estate investing from the bank side, managing I think over 1,500 like foreclosure transactions back in the day.
Yeah.
How did you find yourself there, and what were some of the big takeaways from that experience?
It was a happy accident. I had been, I got my real estate license in 2005 while I was a junior in college and started at a little local mortgage shop. Did, everything from, admin work to marketing to loan origination and then real estate sales and everything in between. But that was for, 2 years or so. And then 2007, the shit started hitting the fan, so to speak.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that he was in the finance, like loan origination space, and he had a friend that got him into an asset manager position at one of these asset management shops. And he's like, hey, we're hiring and we need more people and this is where the market's going, so you should consider it. And I did it. One of the, best little career moves I could have made, I think, because the amount of transactional experience that I got in that, 3-year time frame was more than most people have in their entire career
Yeah,
in real estate.
absolutely.
So, I was a young buck kid. I wasn't the most confident of people, and I needed that experience for me to feel like, hey, I do kind of get this now. So now I'm ready to go out in the investment world. I always wanted to do the investing, but I wasn't ready until I had that experience for sure.
Yeah, 1,500 reps of anything will turn you into an expert and give you the confidence for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it helps. It helps a lot. The amount of and those aren't like the cleanest of transactions too. I mean, you're dealing with the messiest of escrows and title and evictions and condition of houses. So, and then in addition to all the different municipalities and legal structures of the different states that you work in. So, it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but definitely a good learning experience.
Seeing it from that side, was it sobering, or was it was it exciting to you realizing that there was all this opportunity? I'm curious how you navigated that and how you ultimately decided to get on the investment side of it.
You know, um, I was, I think I was too young to really understand the scope of what was happening, like across the country. Um, and we didn't have a lot of situations where I was the one dealing with the former homeowner. Um, I mean, the REO agents in that time really earned the money they were making, because those are some really tough situations. Um, the From my perspective, I wouldn't call it fun at the time, but I did realize, like, while I was doing it, like, this is a really good opportunity, and I want to make sure I make the most of it. Um, it definitely, after probably the first 500 homes and realizing how many of these were going to cash buyers and, the kind of discounts they were like, to know that that you were buying properties at like a third of the replacement cost at some points during that cycle. So it definitely opened my eyes to like, I wish I had the money to go do what these guys are doing
Right.
because the opportunity is pretty big.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was that catalyst that made you, or allowed you to make the shift?
The um a lot of people don't know this because they weren't really in the weeds like we were, but in 2010 there was the foreclosure industry started changing quite a bit. There was it was like robo signing fiasco that
Yeah.
these banks were getting into trouble um, for basically, auto signing a bunch of documents and not going through the proper channels, and that kind of put a freeze on foreclosures. And the writing was on the wall that they were pushing more towards short sales, and we were strictly a REO, asset management division. For I was working for JP Morgan Chase as my client. Um, so we were heavily commission based at the time, and seeing the writing on the wall and knowing that, all of a sudden, it kind of froze everything. We weren't able to do very much for a couple of months there, and I had a young family. My monthly expenses were pretty low. We bought a house, but we bought it super cheap, and me and one of my buddies that worked at that company would always go on these walks for coffee, and especially after the robo signing, because we had so much time, we couldn't do very much, and we knew our bonuses were going to be taking an impact, pretty big hit. And we're like, hey, this is a good time of any to, kind of go out and try to do it. So we started while we were still there. We started, first off, we tried to go raise money. We went to we felt like we had the experience and we knew what to do. So we tried to use that experience to go raise money. It didn't work for us. A lot of people said, I'm interested in this, but you haven't actually done what you're saying you're going
Right.
to do. Um, and so we didn't have a lot of capital. So that's when we realized like, hey, we kind of got to go the other way around here, and we got to start with the wholesale approach. Um, so while we were still working there for, I think it was 2011, for most of that year, we just, we were just moonlighting. We had a lot of time. We still would go to work. We didn't operate in San Diego, for the REO side of the business. So there wasn't really a lot of conflict of interest there. We just started trying to buy properties and wholesale them. It took a
Yeah.
while. It probably took about 6 months for us to kind of figure it out and get our first real deal under contract. Um, but then, we off to the races after that. We were like, okay, this makes sense. And we saved up all the wholesale fees, made sure we had a good, base of cash to warrant me going full time. So I went full time first, and then he went full time probably 6 to 7 months later.
Yeah, it's great. Do you look back on that and think that maybe not being able to raise money was a blessing? I mean, you're ultimately able to kind of get down into the weeds and then and keep all the proceeds, really. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. It all happens for a reason. I think, I would like to think we would have figured it out if we had the money as well. Um, but it definitely, we got to learn more sides of the business. This side of the business with the wholesaling and that we didn't know about before. So it was a blessing in disguise for that way, because we 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 understood the full breadth of what was possible with the real estate game. So yeah.
it's great. Well, let's fast forward because
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I was really eager to speak with you about is, you've gone from seeing the bloodbath that occurred, during the foreclosure years to then getting in the game and then really reframing the game for yourself, at least, and your group to be not just about how to flip homes and generate the most profits, but to think about it in more of a mission based framing or cause based. And so maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing with We Revive and how it ties into your local community.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a maturation process for sure. The first business went from like 2011 to 2016, end of 2016. Ended up uh, ended up having partnership issues, which is pretty common when you start a partnership at 25. You don't know what the heck you're doing. Um, I left that company, took a few years out of real estate, started this company, We Revive, back in 2019. Um, Over that time, building the first company, leaving it, starting a new one, and then in that 2-year hiatus, I worked with a guy named Darren Hardy, and learned just a crap ton as it relates to business building, culture building, hiring, recruiting, all that stuff. Just the importance, especially in I think in this space in particular, it can be very money focused if you're not very intentional about making sure you're more than you make it more than about money.
Yep.
So when I started We Revive, I knew that I wanted to have something bigger than just making more money on the next project. For me personally, um, I start to get a little, I guess, bored and content. I guess with money, I don't need a lot. I like it, but it's just not as motivating to me. So knowing that the money is serving a purpose above and beyond just filling my bank account is something that keeps me going. And it keeps the rest of the team going. I mean, it the uh I didn't want to build a lifestyle business. I wanted to build a business. And in order to do that, I needed my team to feel like it was more about it's bigger than just filling up my bank account or the company's bank account. It's about doing something good for the world and seeing the writing on the wall with affordability and knowing that has it's a variable at play for the homeless crisis that we're in. I definitely wanted to be a part of that. So we early on we made We Revive to be a mission focused company, um, to help build a better culture, to attract better people, to keep those people engaged, and to keep me engaged. And our platform was, we branded it the One Campaign, because I had a hard time with homelessness before I really started diving into it. I wanted to be a part of the solution, but it also felt so big that it it it
Yeah.
didn't
Where do you
feel like we
start?
were really going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Um, And then there was this one story that hit me really hard. It's called the Sea Star Story, and it's a YouTube video. You can find it, if you just look up Sea Star Story. But I mean, in short, it's about a kid on the beach. Uh, there's millions of starfish that got washed up onto the shore, and this kid is on the beach picking up a starfish and throwing it back into the water one by one. And then an old man comes up to him and said, "Kid, what are you doing?" It's like, "Well, I'm throwing this starfish back in the ocean." And he's like, "Well, why are you doing that? There's so many here. You're not going to make a difference." And then he looks at the guy, looks back down at the starfish, looks back up at the guy, picks up a starfish, throws it in the water, and says, "Well, I made a difference with that one." And to me, that was a kind of catalyst for us for what we call our One Campaign. We're not going to make a difference. We're probably not going to really make a dent in the homeless issue as a whole. There's a lot of things that need to happen to solve that, but we can make the difference in one person's life, and for them, it does matter. And that's been kind of our rallying cry going forward.
That's great. I mean, I think, I really resonate with what you're saying there. I mean, especially for the team, like, giving the team just monetary objectives and goals, it's really difficult to expect that they're going to buy in the same way, maybe as you as the owner. It just doesn't move them emotionally. Whereas if you're focused on helping someone, helping one person or helping a whole group of people,
Yeah.
that's something that really strikes a deep chord with people, and I think allows the team to be stronger, more culturally aligned as a result.
Yeah. It we still do have to have monetary bonuses,
Sure. Yeah.
especially in San Diego. The cost of living here is crazy. So, and um, not everybody is as there's certain people on the team that just love the 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 mission and the giving back, and there's some people on the team that they like it, but it's not their thing, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They they still are connected to the fact that we're doing something good. It's just homelessness might not be their
Their
jam.
driver. Sure.
Um, but for the team as a whole, just knowing that they're, what they're doing is not only mattering for their family's bank account, but also for the community at large does help quite a bit.
Yeah. So how do you go about measuring success of the mission? I mean, is it the number of people's lives that you touch, or how do you go about that?
It's hard. Um, we so we're our primary local ministry partner is San Diego Rescue Mission. They're the organization that I did a lot of research. I met with some people in different organizations, and I really connected with what they were doing and how they were doing it. Um, they have financial data that kind of showcases how much money they take in and how many people they're able to get off the street with that money. Um, and then our other ministry partner is this organization called Baja Bound, which puts groups together to build homes in Ensenada, other parts of Mexico. Um, and they have financial data of like, this is how much it costs to give one person safe, secure housing. Kind of combined all that together and said, hey, okay, so it costs roughly $11,000 to get one person, if you combine all those two different ministries or organizations together, about $11,000 to get one person off the streets with safe, secure housing forever. Like there's certain numbers that they, temporary housing and all that. We don't really count that. We're trying to get to the ones that uh, move from homelessness to having a safe, secure home, roof over their head for what looks like should be forever. It's obviously not perfect, but that number is about $11,000. So we track that.
Okay.
Um, and we're like, okay, so how much did we give, and how many lives were impacted with safe and secure housing, based on that 11,000 metric. And that's kind of how we look back to say, connect the amount of money that we're able to give and some of the efforts that we're able to do be above and beyond monetary, and say, hey, our organization this year helped get 5 homes or 5 people, safe and secure housing, or 7, or, depending upon how we do.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's hard though. I mean, that took a little bit of time to figure out, because we did need to figure out a metric of like, how do we measure the actual impact that we're doing here?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So
back to that mission. Those people that do care about that and resonate. I mean, you need to be able to bring it full circle and
yeah,
show them the impact they're making.
yeah,
So you're doing this in a very tough geography. I mean, I think the San Diego market is pretty competitive around home
yeah.
investors and flippers. And I mean, how do you do that? You got guys like Phil Green and others that are, you know, have real legitimate businesses. How are you finding your opportunities?
Well, it's a big market. Um, and there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of different players. But yeah, Phil Green, they're GG Homes, iBuySG, they're a monster for sure.
Yeah.
Um, our One thing I realized up front when I restarted this company in 2019 is I had to pick a lane. Um, I could go, if I'm going to go direct to seller, it's going to be tough. It's a tough slog because, they had been around at that point by, probably 6, 7 years. They had a lot of systems, a lot of people. that really perfected that game. And I thought about it, but I ended up landing on the fact that, well, I have a network of real estate connections because I've been doing this here in San Diego since 2005. I decided that I'm gonna go all in with agent relationships. That was our main, from the get go, and still is to this day, our main source of business. So, um, there's a lot of people dabbling in it. I said, like, hey, if we can just really focus and be really, really good at this, we can end up, taking market share of this, vertical or avatar. And wholesalers too. We buy from wholesalers, but that was the big, I think, deciding strategic, uh, you know, way forward that that helped get us kind of leverage in the market. Um, so to this day, I think 98% of the projects we take on come from real estate agents or wholesalers that we have relationships with, that we do repeat business with. And that's been I guess our special sauce.
Yeah. What is your buy box? What are you looking for?
We, I mean, we look at everything. There's certain areas that are just too far out geographically. There's I'm not doing spec homes. Uh, but I mean, other than that, I mean, from our main thing is we don't wholesale. So wholesaling is a great was a great way to get into the business, but I didn't love it. I just
Yeah.
don't. It's not something that I'm excited about doing. I really love the transformation process from taking a beat up house and seeing what it can turn into. So that has been our main thing. We do everything from a $30,000, carpet and paint remodel to I got one in Carlsbad right now that's almost a spec home, but it's 1.4 million. Um, we can't do very many of those at a time,
Sure.
just because of the time commitment that goes into it. But our buy box is pretty wide open. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got I don't do a lot of condos now because I don't love the condo market in right now particularly. But I mean, we've done everything from a $300,000 condo to I think our top end sales around 4 million.
Okay. Wow. A big span there. So that's the relationships you have with the realtors, or in some cases with wholesalers. Um, what are you bringing to the table there that to make it clear to them that, hey, this is an opportunity for We Revive? Like, uh, how are you getting those at bats? Because I'm sure that there's plenty of other flippers and investors that are also knocking on those doors.
For sure. Um, with I mean, for us, the fact that we don't wholesale, we don't play games, we have in-house construction. Our big thing has always been, if we're gonna put an offer on a property, that we're gonna close on it. It's our money that we're gonna close and we're gonna perform. Especially, we don't. That's one of the reasons why I just kind of made the decision. We're not wholesaling, as long as it's coming from another wholesaler or a partner. I just don't want that temptation to try to make a quick buck and then torture the other person on the other side of the transaction.
Yep, I understand.
So I mean, it's not that complicated. I mean, we have a lot of messaging around it. Like we do put a lot of intent behind our marketing, and then the messaging that we're using, or scripting, or whatever you want to call it, with agents and wholesalers. Really, when they really need to know that they're getting a buyer that's going to perform and perform quickly, the people that work for us know that, or have worked for us in the past, or work with us in the past. They know that we're gonna that they need to call us. So that helps us. We don't we don't buy a lot of the ones that get into big bidding wars, because those are tough to make pins.
Yep.
But the ones that really need to close, that the sellers really just want that clean offer from the get go, or they've been tortured a couple of times right now by a lot of wholesalers. Um, those generally are the ones that come to us. And then once they work with us, next time they have a situation like that, they know to come
Yeah.
to us first.
Cool. You mentioned that you have construction in house. I think you also have design. How did you decide to kind of go vertical integration, and then maybe tell me a little bit about what you see as the benefits of being vertically integrated like that?
It's been, I mean, I'll tell you, we've made a lot of mistakes along the way, in doing the vertical integration. It's, we've tried lots of different ways to structure it. Um, the big thing is I saw there not being vertically integrated and hiring a GC over and over again. Usually what happens, there's only a certain number of GCs that are even capable of trying to do lots of these projects at a time. And inevitably, the ones that do usually don't have the greatest systems for tracking finances, for knowing whether or not they're making money on a project. And ultimately, through our own growth journey, we've gone through contractors, great human beings that made mistakes, that didn't have the right systems in place, and ultimately cost us a lot of money because they ended up having to, they ran out of money. They took on too many jobs. And I knew that if I'm going to do this at scale, I have to have as as much control of the process as possible, not just
Yeah.
for my own sake, but for theirs as well. Because it is to do what we do at scale. Like sometimes we only have 10, 15 projects, but sometimes we have 30, 35 projects at a time. The financial system to track that properly is a beast.
I can
And
imagine.
the uh, the contractors just in no way, shape, or form have the ability to do that, and to do it efficiently and effectively, to really know the cost. So I knew that I needed to figure that out. But we've gone through many different iterations of how to do it, where I've lost more money along that way trying to vertically integrate. Um, we for a long time we were buying all material, like rough material. They were using our Home Depot card. They were buying finished material on our cards, and inevitably, we got so big, we got a lot of people involved in that, and a lot of people stole from us.
Yeah, lose sight of
So
it.
that didn't work out. Um, then we tried to go back to kind of a hybrid approach where we were having them buy the material, but we were providing very detailed lists of, like, here are the finished materials, here's the quantity, here's where you get them, go buy them, and just give us a bid with all of this included. Ultimately, what happened is material they wouldn't buy the material at the right time because they didn't have the money to do it. It wouldn't get there on time. Projects would be delayed, and or at the same time, they wouldn't know how to budget correctly, and they ultimately ended up losing money on projects, which
Yeah.
I don't want to happen because these are good people that are trying to work hard and make a living, and I don't I want to make sure that they're winning by doing our projects as well. Through trial and error, what we landed on is our crews now, we still sub out most of the work on the job to a contractor. They provide labor and rough material. We give them a material budget and a labor budget. And then we sub out about 5 or 6 other trades, and then we buy all the finished material and deliver it to the site.
Okay.
So that model has lasted the longest, has proven to be the most effective from a cost standpoint, from a time standpoint, and a quality standpoint.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are you seeing these days? I mean, there's been a lot of price uncertainty and tariff impacts and all these various things. Are you shying away from deeper projects at this point? Are you trying to minimize the amount of materials on projects, or how is the current market affecting the way you approach deals?
Well, we've tracked we got when tariffs were announced, we started conversations with all our suppliers and vendors ahead of time. For the most part, a lot of things weren't impacted. but some big things were HVAC went up quite a bit. Appliances went up a little bit. And I'm probably missing some things here and there. I'm sure some of the finished material went up as well, but we track that on every single project. If a price increases, our design sheet increases, and so does our budget. So the tariffs themselves, while they might have driven up the cost a little bit, we were in front of it enough to know that we weren't caught off guard by that. The market is a challenge. The market itself, like
Yeah.
demand is not growing. Supply is getting up there. And we have a major affordability problem. So
Yeah.
our volume, just for context, like we went into 2024 thinking we were going to do 80 projects. About halfway through the year, I realized that's not going to happen. That's not smart. We started implementing, forward-looking depreciation into our analysis. We started looking into longer hold times. And every month I look at this, and most of the time, I'm adding to that.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm
it's
adding more
moving
depreciation.
target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our volume, like we started this year saying, this is not about volume. This is about quality over quantity. We're not in a market right now that we're gonna make twice as much as we thought we did when we bought it. So we have to pick and choose the projects really, really
Right.
intentionally, and we have to manage them freaking well. Like we have to be dialed in on our timelines and our budgets, and then we have to price them well, and try to stay ahead of the lag in the market. We've gotten some of those right. We've gotten some of them wrong. To be honest, this is probably the stretch between like Q2 2024 and where we are still today is one of the toughest markets that I've ever been in this space. Even 2022, 2022 was real hard for about a 6-month period, but then everything shot back up in 2023 and kind of saved our ass in some respects. That isn't going to happen again. We've peaked for sure. Now we're just kind of waiting for the market to catch up and realize it. We're putting out twice as many offers. We're walking twice as many properties to buy half as many projects. And I've been very upfront with our team to say, like, we are in the hardest part of any market cycle. You can't, like, the elbow of the curve is super challenging because you still have a lot of people that they're buying properties like it is 2023. You have sellers who still think their house is worth what it was in 2024.
Right.
You got agents that still think, and they still can. There's still buyers that are buying properties at prices that I think it's going to hurt. So to how we're navigating is we're just being super cautious on what we're buying. As it relates to the size of the project, honestly, I've looked at our numbers. I've found that we have done the best on the bigger projects.
Oh, really?
In the areas where there still is a lot of cash to buy, like the coastal areas, we're not dealing with the ultra high end. Like, again, our max ARV is 4 million. That sounds like ultra high end for, I'm sure, a lot of the listeners here, but for San Diego, in California, you can get up into 5, 10, 15 million.
Yeah.
We don't understand that market, so we don't play in it. But those kind of higher end projects where our end buyer is potentially a cash buyer, and there's something unique about the property that will hopefully connect with one of those cash buyers. Those have done our best. Those have done the best for us. So
interesting.
Do
you think that this pressure that is in the market right now will ultimately flesh out a lot of the players and the investor players or flippers that aren't as diligent, aren't as operationally sound, and if kind of the people that are doing it really well, like yourselves and other, strong operators, is this potentially a point at which some of the competition fades away and, next 2 years or 3 years in the future are
Yeah.
dominated by a smaller few?
Yeah. I'm, I think that's usually what happens in cycles like this. And we're seeing it. Um, but yeah, I still think there's probably some pain to be felt. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we're one of the more conservative buyers out there right now, and we're still missing on
Yeah.
some of the benefits of doing a portfolio style approach is that, some of your wins can offset some of your losses,
Absolutely.
and you can still um, you can still navigate some of these tough times. But we have to be ultra diligent on the buy, and then ultra diligent on the back end to know, like, hey, we got to cut our losses and make sure we move this property.
Yeah.
Um, being Having been around for a while, we have, I know I'm pretty conservative as it relates to cash reserves. Um, I think that helps. If we take a couple losses, it's not gonna destroy us.
Right.
And then we got to pivot real quick on our buying formula and make sure that we're being diligent going forward. Um, but yeah, I mean, we see it right now. There's a lot of buyers that have lost, lost money and are not participating in the market anymore.
Right.
And there's still some left to go, for sure. That is kind of what's typical at a peak of a cycle. And then the people that are left understand the underwriting and what the numbers need to look like in order to make money on the project. And sellers can't sell it to anybody else unless the numbers make sense, and margins end up getting bigger,
Yeah.
because you need to be bigger when the market's softening. But yeah, I think we still got another 12 months probably at
Yeah.
least.
No, I agree with you. So you're in one of the more progressive areas of the country relative to ADUs, and it's
Yeah.
kind of a nod to the housing crisis there. But I believe like San Diego and maybe Washington seem to be, leading the pack in terms of opening up the ability for ADUs. How do ADUs factor into your strategy? Or is that something that you do when you're making purchases and
We
finance?
A couple years ago, we went all in, not all in, but we went heavy into some of the bigger kind of infill project strategies of, like, putting 10, 12 of these on a lot. Our focus when we did that was, luckily, because there's been a lot of pushback for people who have done that in residential zones. All of our projects are in already multifamily zones. But man, I mean, it sounds great on paper, and they started off, like, the city started off with, you know, timelines being pretty quick, and the development fees being lowered. But man, still at the end of the day, I kind of got my fill of that strategy pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We bought 5 in total. We're finishing up construction on 2. We're entitled on 2, and we're selling those, and we got one more that we'll probably build. Um, I didn't do I didn't do a lot of those one-off single ADUs. To buy a house, add an ADU, and sell it. I
Right.
know that worked for some people. It's it's a lot of work, navigating the city, permitting, and our team just wasn't really set up for it. I think if we had been really intentional about it, there probably is a bigger opportunity in that than we realized. But for us, I mean, our bread and butter has been the flip. And I realized after we bought those 5, I said, okay, we'll see how these go. We're going to focus on what we really know. Um, and just keep better and better at being an operator in that quick flip model. But so I'm not as active as some of the investors in our market in that ADU space. But I with the amount of time it takes to permit, and then the amount of time it takes to build, and then the holding cost related to it, and the returns, I use time weighted returns to make my buying decisions, and I just had a hard time making them pencil. Like if I'm going to own a property for 2 years, I want a 25% cash on cash return
Right.
over that 2-year period. That's a big ass spread. It's
Right.
hard to buy the properties still, even with the progressive models. It's hard to buy the properties with that kind of spread.
Absolutely. So, Brian, as we wrap here, I'm curious if you could give like a single piece of advice to flippers around the country navigating kind of these challenging times in 2025, maybe even through 2026. What would your advice be?
Cash is king. Reserves, and be really diligent about, be really diligent about, if you need to, shrink. Um, this isn't, this definitely is not the time for pedal to the metal growth. Even for wholesalers, it's hard. Like I talked to it's hard to buy. It's, it's hard to, you have to spend a lot of money in our market, at least. You have to spend a lot of money to buy a wholesale. And it takes a while to get really, really good at it. So slow down, be diligent, build cash reserves. I mean, the being able to know that you've got, money in your bank to pay your bills if shit hits the fan is worth the loss of potential opportunity cost on that capital. I think we tend to be ROI junkies in this
Yeah.
space, and we don't always weigh the cost of not having that capital there. So yeah, I mean, cash is king. Lots of reserves. Don't spend don't spend it. Don't increase your living expenses. Keep your nut as small as you can right now. And just be diligent. There still is opportunity out there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just harder. It's harder to find. And if you're out there forcing deals, this is a bad time to do that.
Great advice. Well, if you found value in this, make sure you hit subscribe and pass this along to friends and colleagues that can also get some value from this conversation. Brian, great to have you on the show. Keep grabbing those starfish and tossing them back into the ocean, and keep up the good fight.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.